Okay, so I have a 2022 Kia Sorento SX, and it generously came with the slow charge USB ports all around the car, which is very nice. Thank you, Kia. But I went ahead and purchased a separate super fast charging adapter that needs to be hardwired. I'll show you what that looks like. I did the installation already to the flip up panel where you put your phone to charge wirelessly, or where you connect to your Android or CarPlay Auto. Anyway, so in order to get this far, you do need to lift this panel up, and in order to do so, the first thing you need to do is drop your gear shifter into neutral, and what you can do is pry it up so it comes up like this, and then you'll get access. There's a plug over here, and I'll just move this out of the way for now so you can see the plug that I'm talking about. So this is the plug. This just pops down and it comes out. Once you do that, it'll release a lot more. And then from the underside, your boot, you have the white tabs here, and a lot of videos tell you to either try to release them before you pulled off the gear shifter, and the way I did that was I lifted this upwards on an angle, kind of like this, and that gave me access to the shifter while it was in neutral. And I released the tabs from the underside to make sure they didn't break. And once I did that, you can push the boot back down a bit, and then you put both hands around the knob and just pull straight up towards you. You want to be careful when you do this, because when you pull up, it takes a lot of force and it eventually releases, and you'll knock yourself out. So just be careful of that. Once you get the shifter off, you can keep it off to the side, pull that off. That's just held in by clips, so when you pull up, don't pull too aggressively, take your time, and it does come out. And then eventually you get to this point here. So if anyone ever wants to know how to get to your center console, this is pretty much how you do it. I was intending to take the whole thing out to get this project done, but there's no need for that. I went ahead and I released the tabs. I pulled out the trim from the bottom here, and I released the screw on both sides, driver, passenger, and I took out the two 10mm screws inside the glove box. And you also have ventilation back here. So once I realized that I didn't actually need to pull out the whole console to do this job, I kept going without actually removing the console, and just removed the trim pieces to get access back here where I need to run the wires to the fuse box, and then I will be able to wire in the new fast charge adapter, which I'll show you where I wired it to, and I'll show you how to close this back up. Alright, so you can see here I got my wire. It runs through, comes out from here. You can see that by removing the side trim panel. Still did me a favor actually, so no complaints there. Then I ran it up and over all the way through to the point where I got the slack here, and I can run that up to the fuse panel, and I gave myself a few extra inches there. And I will just zip tie everything so it doesn't shift around while I'm driving. And that's the positive feed. It'll go to the fuse box via fuse tap, 10 amps, and that'll connect the power. Alright, so we got our wire routed. It goes up through here, and it comes out into the fuse box where it's all zip tied with the extra slack. And now it's time to see about our fuse box, on which fuse we're going to use. Alright, so now we need to run our ground wire. So here's our ground wire. We need a chassis ground. So when I look in, I can see that there's a chassis ground there, which is connected to this support beam, and there is a Looks like an 8mm bolt there. So I guess I could use this as a ground and we'll connect the wire there. Okay, and there you have it. Now we have our ground wire installed and it's ready to be wired to our new adapter that's going to give us our fast charge. So we'll get that soldered in and then I'll push everything back in and we'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so there you have it. It's installed clean with OEM look, nothing modified. That's a little flap cover, and of course we get a factory finish like. Alright, so I did run the wire as I mentioned before. I got everything back together and I'll show you what it looks like. But in my last video you saw me run the wire, but I didn't actually make the connection because I had purchased the wrong sized fuse tap, but it's here now, so I'll show you what that looks like. Here it is here, and it's fused at 10 amps. And all we're gonna do is basically make the connection. So at this point, we can say safely around there. I'll come back to it and I'll show you what it looks like once I size it up more correctly. Alright, so in my last video, I know I showed you that I ran the wire, and that's because I was waiting on the fuse tap to come in before continuing the recording. And now that I've got it, here you can see I have 14 gauge wire, which I've used all around, including my ground, with a 10 amp fuse for the accessory, which is the charger. Got my fuse puller here, so we're going to test which fuse I'll use and pull it out, connect it to the fuse tap, and plug the fuse tap in its place and get my circuit complete. So first thing I want to do is just double check which fuse I'll be using, and that one has no power, and that's a 7.5 amp, and that one is going to the cluster because I've already checked it, which is good. So now I will pull that 7.5 fuse out, connect it to my fuse tap, just like that. Just remember, on fuse taps, the top one typically is the new circuit and the one below is your current circuit. So make sure those are both pushed down nice and firm. We'll come back into our fuse panel here, tuck the wire in a little bit and push that into place. A little bit challenging with one hand holding a phone. Alright, so here you can see we installed the new fuse into the cluster tap, which is 7.5 amps, and we added that circuit to our fuse tap, and our fuse tap now carries a new circuit for the 10 amps for our new fast charger. So let's get this fuse panel back on. The cover. Okay, so that's back on. Get back in the car and we'll turn on the ignition. I don't need to turn on the car, but we'll just get it to accessory on. And now we'll push the power button, get it turned on. And that looks good. let's plug in our power cord here, or USB-C to USB-C. And let's plug it in. And yeah, that works. My charging light came on the phone, give me the display. And there you have it. I did a screenshot and you can see that there's the super fast charging, which will now speed up my charging time in the car. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, let me know.